The Carolina Panthers went into week 13 of the NFL season hoping that they could pull off a type of moral victory that seems to eluding them after a big win. And arguably facing off against an opponent that is a potential Super Bowl favorite and is a Super Bowl favorite in a lot of people's eyes. Yet welcoming them in to Bank of America Stadium, hoping not to be embarrassed, as we've seen one time before. Or maybe twice. These stories and more coming up on this pre-buy edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Growlers. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Of course, you are growling once again with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. And Panther Nation, I must tell you, this team is a roller coaster ride. And I mean, when you sit back and you really think about it, this team has given us so many different emotions to deal with over this season, and I'm going to tell you, it tries you as a Panthers fan. It really does. But, I mean, a lot of you are here with me. A lot of you are with the Panthers. You're here attempting to be a huge fan of this football team. And if you're like me, you love this team, and you want nothing more than to be a part. But we got to tell some truths here, you know. And when we look at this team and we see so many people, and maybe some of you are out there being my viewers, we got to come to an agreement, ladies and gentlemen, in Panther Nation. We part of the problem because we got too many people straddling the fence. Either you're going to be here and you're going to be... Look, we don't want to be the fan base that's like a lot of other fan bases. As soon as stuff goes wrong, we just want to blow it up and start it over. Do you not realize what makes franchises like the Steelers and the Ravens so successful? They don't have these coaching drop-offs. They don't continuously turn over and not stick with a guy. And I'm not saying Matt Rule was the greatest coach ever, but I am saying that realistically, we got to look at it from the standpoint that this defense was in much better shape under his leadership. Now we're getting Dave Canales to understand you're still going to have to win games with offense. And I'm going to talk about that today, that despite Derek Brown being the effing man and having certain guys, and we got to throw Mike Jackson in there, Mike Jackson being the effing man, he wasn't super great, but he was good with his pick six, which did not get enough airtime in my opinion. But considering we had the injuries that we had on Sunday, I thought we played exceptionally resourceful. Wasn't great. We gave up a lot of points, but I think ultimately you get a lot of people who really ignore that fact that we have really been a team that has not given up a whole ton of points. But we really got to address the issues that, a lot of winning does a lot. It really settles in people from being so overly critical of Coach Ichiro Rivera, which he did a phenomenal job taking Lathan Ransom and moving him around in different sets, as well as Damani Richardson. But Lathan Ransom was just absolutely out there. He was just absolutely popping Kyron Williams and those guys out there. And, we're not going to get away from the guy who was the star of the day. And in my opinion, the effing man of this game, as well as several guys on the offensive side. But of course, like I said, there was no effing man bigger than one Derek Brown. But I said all that to say this, you guys. Make sure we're about, before we go and start diving into this game, let's hear a word from today's sponsor and help you guys become the effing man. He builds it, fixes it, lifts it, breaks it, then builds it again. The world calls him a man. We call him an effing man. TF Man, the lotion made for hands that earned it. Crafted from grass-fed tallow, squalene, and grit. No flowers, no fluff, just results. TF Man by LV. You guys know what kind of man a TF Man is? He's the man that gets it done. Just like me. Just like you. The one who doesn't need a filter. Like Mr. CeeLo. The one who doesn't need a hashtag or permission. He's not just a man. He's the effing man. And now he's got the lotion to match. What? TF Man, the whipped tallow cream from LV. Made from grass-fed beef tallow, squalene, and true grit. No chemicals, no perfume, just hand-earned hydration. For hands that build, lift, and live. Make sure you guys go online and check this out. Guys, I'm going to put the QR code up there on the screen. And if you guys put in the code FRIENDS20, you get 20% off your first order. Make sure you go over to their website. And guys, let me tell you, as a man that loves to look awesome and smell fabulous, this is perfect. I have been using it a couple of weeks, you guys, and I'm going to tell you, every time I get out the shower, I got to put it on my face and I got to put it on my hands. Because when you start getting to be my age, you got to start protecting all this, you guys, because guess what? The ladies not only like for you to look fabulous, they also want you to smell terrific. Because you don't want to just be the man. You want to be the effing man. Now, don't forget, you guys, Christmas is around the corner, and Lumavita's got a great promo and a great gift set for your ladies, your girlfriends, or girlfriends on the side if you got them. But guys, let us get into Carolina's 31-28 victory over the Los Angeles Rams, a team who was absolutely white hot. Now, this game is going to be very misleading. Now, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we dominated this football game. I'm not going to pretend, because ultimately, what really bothered me with Canales' approach is he's still not really understanding how to maximize the middle eights. And that's really bothersome to me. Because, guys, listen, if you're going to be a successful team in the National Football League, you have to eat up possessions. And, I mean, I've heard this many times about, doing onside kicks to steal possessions. Look, you don't have to do that if you understand the middle eights. Because here's the thing. The Panthers, after the Rams went up 2017, now, granted, the Panthers did score a touchdown and ate up 6 minutes going into the third. That's great. Absolutely wonderful. But let's look at that last drive the Panthers had in the second quarter. All right. You ended up having a 1-yard run by Dowdle. Then on 2nd and 9, you gave it back to him. I guess the Rams went to sleep. Then you have a 17-yard run, which was the longest Rico Dowdle had that day. And with that said, you had a $1:10 left, and then you try to throw a deep one to Xavier Legette, which was, look, I love it, XL, but to me, you got to take a shot with either Coker or Ted McMillan. Because honestly, people don't respect, Jalen Coker like that. Or even Jimmy Horn. As well as but when you look at XL, you got to look at it from the standpoint of you got to do more than just send him down the field. But that ended up being incomplete. Then you get Bryce gets sacked, and I heard Drew Brees say the most boneheaded thing I've ever heard said. He gonna say, "Oh well, Bryce can't take a sack there." He knows that, but when your guy gets whipped and gets pushed right back into him, pretty much. Yeah, nobody wants to take a sack. It's not like he took it. He was trying to escape and got his own guy rolled up on him. So we were grateful he wasn't hurt. But yeah, and then it was kind of one of those where the Rams took a timeout. It was 3rd down and 18. And then they gave it to Rico Dowdle, and he was able to take it for 8 yards. And of course, Rams took their second timeout. They get a punt with 21 seconds left. And the Rams, realizing that this was going to be, it was a great punt, by the way, all the way back to inside the 10-yard line. So that really didn't give them much to look at. That's why I was kind of disappointed when Dave Canales didn't take that shot. Ultimately, if he, runs that, and, you probably get about 5-6 more seconds on there, and it's a 27 seconds left. And, I get it. It's going to be 4th down, and you're going to be at, let's say it's incomplete, you're going to be at midfield. So I don't understand why there was no shot taken on that. I ultimately don't understand why Canales is so conservative when in the middle eights. I think ultimately he's going to have to get to a point, and if this does not show him that his play calls need to get more aggressive, I don't know what is. You don't wait till 4th down to get uber aggressive throwing it down the field. And I get so sick in here, you Panther fans say, Bryce arm ain't strong enough. Have you changed your minds yet? And guys, I will tell you, we got some good news coming. And if you don't know, you're going to hear it here first. And the reality of it is, the Carolina Panthers offense is ready to go to town. We got too many big receivers. Drew Brees said that on the telecast, y'all. I hope that Dave Canales is getting ready to unleash this deep attack. We got too many big receivers. We got way too many big receivers for us to be even thinking about not throwing it down the field. I get it. Look, we got 4th down plays like that. Give it to the Coke. Give it to the Coke. And all you Coke heads, rejoice. Because yes, Coker has been a show-up guy. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm tired of hearing people say he's been a no-show, Excel's been a no-show, and Ted McMillan has been up and down. Reality of it is, Canales has got to be a show-up. He's got to show up, and he's got to build this game plan for Excel to succeed, as well as Jalen Coker to risk. And even Jimmy Horn. This is a dude that I would love to get more. And even Bryce Tremaine, who's been on a phenomenal job blocking on the edge. Y'all don't see these type of things that they do on the outside. Tremaine was a one guy out there on one of those runs, and he did a phenomenal job on the edge. These are things that don't get noticed. Y'all notice Bryce because Bryce is the guy that's carrying the helm. You can't be one-sided. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to know what you're seeing. And unfortunately, many of y'all don't know what you're looking at, don't know what you're viewing, and then you just go out here on these blind rants thinking it's all about Bryce. Now, once again, you got all the Bryce parrots coming out. You know what I mean? Bryce is this, Bryce is that. He's great, he's great, he's great. Now, all of a sudden, what's going to happen after the bye week? See, this is what I hate about this is because now they're on a bye week. You got all of this momentum, which hasn't done much for us other than the winning streak that we had, you guys. But we got to carry this over. When you look at the statistics, and I want y'all to do that. I mean, because look at it with me. The Panthers had 62 total plays. The beautiful thing is Canales listened to what a lot of us had said. He ran the ball to failure. 40 carries, 164 yards. And here's the thing, what I want to say about all y'all that sat there and talked about Rico Dowdle. Where you at now? And this ain't no knock on Rico Dowdle. All y'all was talking about you paid too much money for Chuba, get rid of him. 17 carries, 83 yards, 4.9. Rico Dowdle, 18 carries, 58 yards. See the difference when you're the starter? See, everybody totally forgot about him. People still think that this Rico Dowdle's team. And see, now Dave Canales is doing a great job figuring out who's who, putting them in there. He done figured it out. I'm not just going to give this job to this drive or this drive. Keep them fresh. That's what I like to see. Keep them fresh. And Chuba looks healthy. I'm talking about he had some runs where he was just slamming into guys. It's like Rico Dowdle said, hey, look, man, you got this. Now, all of a sudden, Chuba looks like a slimmer version of Rico Dowdle. He's running very aggressively, and really pounding away at guys, making them, I don't want to hit that. When you got two of your premier backs running the ball for 35, and then you add Bryce to the mix on that beautiful bootleg run, which I know it was supposed to be a pass, but you see guys like Mitchell Evans that get down the field, Tommy Tremble, they block for Bryce. And they block with passion. Because guess what? That's a sign of a leader. A leader they want to go and fight for. Panther Nation, you cannot overstate that. These tight ends love Bryce Young. And I'll say it like this. I'm tired of hearing the game manager thing. Because if that's the case, you buy about 17 game managers in the NFL. That's real talk. Realistically, Bryce went 15 of 20, 3 touchdowns. I'm not a big fan of them both going on fourth down because you're not going to always get that magic. I hope we get to a point where Canales is saying, let's eat up the play action and take shots. Let's get the Pittsburgh Steelers mentality, y'all. We got the speed and the size. If we can get safeties down the field, look, let me say it like this. If you get a defense thinking that you're scary down the field, they got to pick their poison, y'all. And especially if we're bootlegging Bryce down the field. If we get a safety one-on-one on Coker, Tet, XL, how about this? Jatavian Sanders. How about those guys? I mean, what would it take to run a guy like Jatavian Sanders up the seam on a bootleg to the left, and he's just going up to the seam or going to that corner pylon, and you just fling it to him? How many safeties you think will be paying attention to the tight end creeping? You gonna get a couple of them biting. I'm just saying. I'm just calling it. Because realistically, when you get a team like the Carolina Panthers that are running the ball as efficient as they are, those safeties have to come up. And like I said on the show, you guys, go back and check what I said. We had to get the ball rolling on the ground. Because that was the one weakness that you could say that nobody had exploited with the Rams, because teams have been playing from behind. Pass rush showed up a couple times, but when you get the bootleg that Bryce had was so beautifully well done because the running game was working so well. Whew, I can't say enough about how good the offensive line was in this one. A couple of flips on the pass rush, but needless to say, they got it together. And I'm starting to change my tune about Ike Ekwonu. He is starting to play better, especially against pass rushers, because he's going to get the best of the best. Yeah, I think ultimately Ike needs to get not a max deal yet. I think he probably needs to get a 2-year deal to see if he's going to come into that super answer at left tackle. Or what we could end up doing is in the draft. I know a lot of people are saying we need to get an elite pass rusher. Clemson's got a couple. We need to get another answer at linebacker, possibly another corner, and possibly a replacement at tackle. I think ultimately the two things that need to go into effect, if we can find 3 of those 2 guys, because Lathan Ransom's the answer at safety. I don't care what anybody says. He's the answer. A lot of people are going to say, well, what about Trayvon Moore? He's better at playing at the front. Well, here's the truth. As much as I like Morrig, he's not very good. He's not great in coverage, and Lathan Ransom is okay in coverage. With Ransom, I have a lot of faith in him. We've got Morrig for, I think, 4 years. We got 3 more years. If by the time Lathan Ransom becomes ready for his next contract, he should be ready to take that role. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, we want to pay that much for him? Unless Kyle Hamilton or Nick Eamon-Rory comes available, why not? Lathan Ransom is a hitter. He could very well be that guy that plays along the line of scrimmage, or we could find one of those ball-hawking safeties in the back to play. But I think ultimately if we get a really good corner to go with J.C. Horn, this is going to be an unstoppable defense, regardless of how much pressure we get. But, yeah, really looking back at what we saw, Derek Brown is really starting to put his stamp on this football team. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am absolutely floored at how good he has played since returning. But like I said, Ransom had 11 tackles in this game and a sack, and also had a QB hit. So you talking about a dude that is really balling out. Nick Scott had a good game. I can't say anything. He did have an interception, but still trouble in coverage, like I said. Trevin Wallace, great game by himself. Chris Barnes stepped in, had a good game. Shaw Smith-Wade had a good game. 6 tackles. A'Shawn Robinson is continuing to show why he's one of the better players and why it was a great move by Dan Morgan not to let him walk. So many people say, oh, he was disappointed. No, he wasn't. This was a dude that had 4.5 sacks last year, despite Derek Brown not being here. He caused a lot of havoc too. And I think Derek Brown is really starting to become contagious because for a guy who only had 2 sacks in this game, 2 tackles, and had the strip sack that fixed the game, this guy gets his hands up. He gets it. A lot of people are going to say, oh, well, his hand didn't hit it. It was his head. Same difference. Derek Brown understands if I can't get to this quarterback, I'm going to make him feel me. And a lot of guys on that line of scrimmage don't understand how to do that. Be a wrecker. Be somebody that's going to wreck your game plan. He was great on defensive line. And when you sit there and you think to yourself, okay, this defense was able to slow down and turn over this LA Rams freight train that had been just going and going and going and going. I think Coach Evero has done a great job in that he understands what he has on defense. Let's not go above what we are, which is a team that we cannot stop anybody. I would say it's more along the lines of we'll slow you down, give you the illusion that you're running up on us, and then we make the big play. I like it because when you have that kind of defense, they may put up a lot of yards on you, but you get to a point where you're giving up. You make them make mistakes. And I was absolutely impressed with the game plan. Now, granted, if it didn't turn out the way it did, you'd be questioning, and I would be too. I think ultimately when I watched this game and I saw how the Panthers were able to turn it over, it just became as simple as, Mike Jackson has finally did what I thought there was several times during the season and during his career in Carolina, he's been behind on throws. And I think he's starting to understand, look, if I'm right there with a lot of these receivers and these balls are thrown behind, I got a shot. He finally did that on Sunday. I don't know. Look, listen, I will take Mike Jackson getting beat over the top. Look, if he gives me one like that, I'll take it. But these 10 and 15-yard cushions that these guys are giving up, especially Jackson, and then you still get beat. Look, I don't want the death by 1,000 paper cuts. Now, I'm not saying you go out there and gamble every play. What I am saying is you have to get to a point or a place where you're, hey, I'm going to jump this thing eventually, especially if you know it's a 3rd and long situation. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, well, don't take the opportunity unless you know you got help over the top. Listen, I don't disagree, but a lot of times most of your quarterbacks are not going to take that shot, especially if you're giving them a large cushion. And at times what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to bait a quarterback into thinking that, hey, he giving me all this space. Mike Jackson did that, despite the fact that he did a good job on Puka Nacua. I don't care what anybody says. He did a great job on him, despite the fact he had the numbers that he did. But that pick six that's a winner all day because Nacua went 6 for 72, 0 touchdowns. That's all you can ask for. 0 touchdowns, and you had a touchdown and a couple of deflections. So it was guys like Xavier Smith and Devontae Adams that did their damage. Adams had 4 catches for 58 yards and the 2 touchdowns after aforementioned. But realistically, when the defense is playing out of sight and out of mind like this, and then you come up on the bye week, you get a chance to get Christian Roseboom back. You get a chance to get J.C. Horn back. You get a chance to get Trayvon Moore back. And even to some capacity, you can get some other guys on that line fully healthy. You really have to me, what's really starting to bring this team alive is the guys on the defensive front are really starting to understand what their roles are. Now, Nick Scorton didn't get involved in this game quite as much. He did have a tackle that he did miss in this game. But what I'm really starting to like about Nick Scorton is I think ultimately he's got an opportunity to be as good, if not on the same level as a Brian Burns, if we can get the next guy on the opposite side of him and we be able to get these guys on the same page. Because needless to say, when you start really truly understanding where this team is from an execution standpoint on this defensive side. This is why I say Coach Avero, I'm not a fan of him leaving now, and I don't think there's a lot of people that really believe he's back in those rooms of being a head coach again. Because ultimately, like I said, this defense is okay. It's not great. But once again, we go in and we start looking at what the defense is doing, what it's not doing. We still got to get a pass rusher. And I think the way the coverage has been in that secondary, not the zone coverage, but these man coverages are getting so much better as the season's going along. And this is with J.C. Horn out. So, ultimately, when I look at what I said on the show and I said I didn't see us winning this game, but I gave you the 3 keys. Look, realistically, we needed turnovers. I said that. We needed opportunities to run the football, and we needed to stay with it. But ultimately, I think the offensive line had arguably its best performance of the season, which is reflected by, and defense as well, as a collective effort. You love to see turnovers for touchdowns. And I know people are going to say, well, you blanked the Falcons. Yeah, you might have blanked them, but you played the most prolific offense in all of the National Football League, and you were able to hang in there. But let's look at the best PFFs. As Jalen Coker had an 86.5. Pretty good. Bryce, of course, 83.3. Chuba Herbert, 82.2. Austin Corbett, this is refreshing, 73.1. Taylor Moton, 71.9. Like I said, for Bryce to average what he did, now there were 2 mix-ups in there, which that needs to be addressed because needless to say, we need drives to continue. We don't need miscommunication on 3rd down. That's a big no-no. And that was, one of them was to Coker, and I think the other one was to Ted McMillan. We have to execute on those. Whether it's Bryce throwing in the wrong spot or whether it's Coker running the wrong route, we got to execute those. It is imperative because when you get to those playoffs or you get to the point where we're playing Tampa Bay, we got to execute those. We got to prolong the drive. Now, granted, we went for it a couple times on 4th down, and yeah, Bryce dropped them right in the bucket. We got to be able to handle that. Got to be able to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Worst of the offense, 56.7 by Bryson Tremaine. I'm not going to go there because he blocked exceptionally well. Jake Kerhan, to be expected. XL, 52.3. Tommy Tremble, 49.2. And Jatavian Sanders, 48. You're saying because he received 3 receiving yards on 2 catches. How about let's say that's in the game plan? I don't like when these PFFs are bad and it's basically based on a couple of metrics. Tommy Tremble made some great blocks out there. So did Jatavian Sanders, as well as Xavier Legette. So all of these grades don't go into the totality of their performance. I'm sorry, they don't. Best of the defense, Mike Jackson topped out at 75. Nick Scott, 67.6. What? Damani Richardson, 65.9. DJ Wanham, 62.8. Shaw Smith-Wade, 57.2. As Mike Jackson earned an 89.9 coverage grade, which, of course, the pick 6 goes a long way into that. I didn't notice. DJ Wanham had a team high 2 pressures. Of course, he was the one that recovered Derek Brown's strip sack. And, Wanham has just done a lot of things that, you know, you don't really. He does a great job of setting the edge, which is why I know a lot of people are saying, don't bring him back, this, that, and the other. I'm not on that boat. I think if we can't get another guy to take his spot, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you want to put another rookie out there? Look, except we're going to put a first-round rookie. I would say if we can get a tackle in the second round, go for it. But needless to say, we're going to have to, at some point, decide, are we going to get an edge guy in the draft, or are we going in the draft or a free agency? Not many free agents out there. There is Kayvon Thibodeau out of the Giants, but do you want to sign him to a big deal? And even Isaiah Simmons that we signed off of on the team, maybe we get this guy going, because he's one of the fastest guys in the National Football League at his position. Get him back in a position where we're blitzing him. He's a big body. Worst on the defense, Bobby Brown, the third, 42.9. Nick Scorton, Turk Wharton, 35.6. We've seen this all season. Chris Barnes, 35.3. And LeBron Ray, 34.2. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need to even be playing Turk Wharton on rundowns. I think we need to just put him out there on pass defense. I ultimately think third downs only, because a lot of the times when Carolina gets gashed, it's because he's out there. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, what about Bobby Brown's made some really good plays in the run game. I think the problem with that is when you get a team like the Rams, who are so unpredictable in their offense, it's hard to say whether or not you need to put him in and out. I say, put him in on first and second down and roll the dice. I get it. To me, you got situational defensive tackles, and you got situational defensive edge guys. That's what we have right now, and I think ultimately that's what Dan Morgan understood what he was getting at. But before we get out of here, you guys, we have got to talk about something that has absolutely got some real emotions out of me. And once again, I got to give so much credit to Bryce Young for doing what he does. You can see Dave Canales and Bryce are really starting to really feel it. And I think ultimately what's happening here is Dave is understanding we are at a do or die situation. We are a running team, and I'm tired of hearing this game manager BS with Bryce. Bryce throws it when he has to. That's not a game manager type thing. What that does is he performs when he performs. We've got the line and everything else that we need, which leads me to my point. And no smart ass remarks in the comments saying that's what a game manager does. No, a game manager is one of those guys. He just has to make just enough plays to not cost his team to lose. We're winning because Bryce makes plays. Okay? All right? There's a big difference. We win with Bryce. Not, we don't win in spite of Bryce. That's what a game manager is. There are some serious possibilities coming up outside of the bye. As we heard Coach Canales say that we are getting very close to getting back the guy who could solidify arguably one of the most dominant offensive lines in the National Football League. You heard me. Pro Bowl guard Robert Hunt is getting close to his return. Guys, can you imagine what this run game will look like with Hunt back in the mix? And another thing, do you think Bryce's confidence sitting in the pocket is going to get better with Robert Hunt being back? I think so. I think ultimately it's going to depend on whether Cade Mays can come back, because I think we need him to. I think we ultimately need, because I think Cade Mays has been better than Austin Corbett. Now, Corbett was not bad on Sunday, but I do really think that if he comes back strong and Cade Mays, and you get Robert Hunt back, and he can get to 100%, now because they've got the Saints coming off the bye. If Panther Nation, if we get Robert Hunt back, Between him and Taylor Moton, now Damian Lewis has been good. He ain't Robert Hunt. He's a shade below Robert Hunt. But he's good. Robert Hunt is that dude. We get him back, and you put him on the same side with Taylor Moton, that right side of that line, it's going to be a terror. And then just imagine running play action and swinging left. How much open space Bryce or tight ends or even one of the guys streaking across the formation are going to have. Guys, I'm telling you, injuries are a bad thing. But if they're injuries where you can recover, if you can hang on until the return, that's where we at. And we reach the bye. We get some time off to rest. And then the Final Four. That includes J.C. Horn possibly returning from his concussion. And I also hear about, I think Claude Sherrillis is another guy that's a name. Many of you will probably say, oh, well, Sherrillis played good last week. I don't care what none of y'all say. He played great. But the biggest thing, Panther Nation, let's not forget our identity. Run the football. Let Bryce beat you over the top with play action. Because Jalen Coker had his game. XL had his game. Tets had his game. We got enough weapons out there. We do. One more thing before we go. Our favorite acquisition that was unfortunately traded away has now got the opportunity to return. And even Dave Canales spoke on it when he said, I haven't seen that yet, but we'll keep an eye out for it. Now the question is, is our wide receiver room ready to re-embrace Adam Thielen? I will say this and then I'm going to let it go. I don't think there's no way that you should not bring Adam Thielen back. He wants to finish his career and be a positive influence and a positive role model. Look, you get him in here, and I promise you, he'll stay as a coach. Because whatever he was doing the 2 years he was here, getting wide open, catching 100 balls from Bryce Young, we need that in our wide receiver room. Teaching guys like Jalen Coker, Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette. Legette had a great season when he was here his rookie year. Guys, we need Thielen. We need him back. You know why? Because all of these issues that we have with the receivers not going in the right spots, finding the holes, he knows how to do that. These same types of plays that Canales is running, that these guys don't seem to be getting to quick enough, and Bryce is able to, Adam can do that. And then we can include him. You can put something on film to show these guys what they need to do, how they need to do it, and help them improve route running and breaking off jams. Morgan, make the move. But guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Make sure you leave comments down below about the game, about Adam Thielen's return, about what if Robert Hunt coming back, how you think that's going to impact us. Also, if you are a first-time watcher, put your name down below. If you are a first-time subscriber and you have subscribed to the show, put a thumbs up down there as well. While clicking the thumbs up notification icon down underneath the show, as well as hitting that bell notification over there so you can make sure you get all of my shorts as well as my shows as they drop. Make sure to follow us over at Facebook by making sure you go over and join the group, as well as adding us as a friend on Facebook, Growlin' and Prowlin'. And finally, make sure you go and hit me up over at Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all my in-season and off-season shenanigans during the year. But until the next time, Don't forget to leave your mark while prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding.